Welcome to my Q&A video. You've submitted the questions, and now I will answer them. Yeah, unlike everything else I've done, there's no script for this, and that's why there'll be a lot more stuttering and awkward pauses. Cook Cohen writes, why did you choose the name Trash Theory? When I started, there were a lot of video essay channels that were looking at the high art directors and musics. And I was like, well, maybe you can apply theory to the trashier stuff, like 21 Jump Street. That's just as credible. So yeah, Trash Theory. Also, my name is Ash, and it's kind of a funny joke, a pun on my name in a way. Dominique Z has asked, why did you start a YouTube initially? And Victoria M has said pretty much the same thing. What drove you to start this channel? So like everyone in the video essay boom, I saw Every Frame Painting, Nerdwriter, and Captain Christian, and thought, I can't do that. They're really good. And then that second wave of people who were just about competent, and because I could actually edit, I thought, I can do better than these guys. So I started a video essay channel. Grain of salt, what is the process for making videos? I think of an idea or a band, which sometimes I'm inspired by the comments, but mostly it's just, I want to do a video on this thing. This band have a great story, or this song has a great background. I think of that first and then go on to research and try and expand it beyond just, here's some facts. Barry Hall on Patreon has asked, on average, how many hours do you devote to writing, editing, voiceover duties once you have a topic in mind? And then says some very nice things. But yeah, he's curious on how much work is involved in each video. It takes a while. I normally do it by days. It takes me about a week of procrastinating to write a video. It takes about 6 hours to 12 to research, and then writing takes me a good couple of days because I need to write it, then rewrite it, and then editing, well, voiceover first. I mean, what are you doing? Do the voiceover first, and that takes 2 hours at least. No matter how long the essay is, it takes about 2 hours, potentially 4, depending on how long it is, because I'm really not very good at voiceover. And then editing, apparently the new video, I could and will not try to do this again. I can get it done in 24 hours, but I shouldn't do that because I had like less than 5 hours sleep and not in a good state afterwards. It takes a while. It takes about 2 weeks to make a video. Bonus Hours has asked a couple of questions. First, is this all riding on your back alone, or do you have a small crew that picks up the slack for you? It's mostly just me. I do all the editing, research, writing, but for voiceover, I've got Ross from Ross Talks About here, so I kind of talk the essay at him, so it's not so stilted. Like, people in the comments occasionally say I sound monotone, or like Moz from IT Crowd. That would be worse if it was just me, because I am not a competent presence. But yeah, like, it is mostly me. They have also asked, do you have a history in the industry, or are you just a fan of music history? Yeah, like I was involved in a couple of music review sites. I wrote a few articles, interviewed a few bands that I really thought were cool. But yeah, I never got paid for it, so not really. Yeah, like I've always liked music though. Yo-Yo, it's your fave ho, has asked, what album or artist / band do you love but haven't had reason or chance to make a video about yet? What do you love about it or them? There are a lot of bands that, I still haven't made videos about just because I've only been doing this for 2 years. From the whole spectrum of music that I love, there's a lot of stuff I haven't even touched on. I want to do a video on the Manic Street Preachers. The Manic Street Preachers not only are great, like the Holy Bible is one of the greatest albums ever, but their story is just, you could make a film out of the making of the Holy Bible. But yeah, like I'm not entirely sure how many people would want to see that video. I'll get around to it. Like I'll get around to a lot of things, though I probably won't do a video on Tool. Lewis Uyghur has asked, Is there a subject or something specific that you'd love to make a video on, but perhaps wouldn't due to it not generating many views? I really want to make one on like fucking Troublegum by Therapy, but I'm not entirely sure how much they crossed over in the US and how many people know who Therapy are. It's the same thing with like Weezer and Pinkerton. They released an amazing album that critics loved and did really fucking well, at least in the UK and Ireland. And then they released their next album, which was awkward as fuck and no one liked it, and it had a ballad as the main single about rape. Like, no one's gonna watch that. A lot of people have asked for me to do videos on various things. There's some good picks here, like Prince, replacements, Bruce Springsteen, maybe gonna happen. At some point I may do these, who knows, I just need to find an angle. HX69 said, where are you from? I am from the home counties in the UK, a county called Buckinghamshire. The first song you remember? I remember my parents listening to a lot of Tears for Fears, well, my mum, so probably something like Shout by Tears for Fears. What instruments you play? I don't really play anything. I had a bass guitar for a while and I was in bands, but yeah, I don't think I played it. It's just I had it. Which song opened Pandora's box for you? Like, I remember as a really young kid being obsessed with both Earth Song by Michael Jackson and I'd Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That by Meatloaf. So I guess that was like 93. That was kind of my introduction to being obsessed with music. Becky asks, favorite movie? If I was being pretentious, I'd say something like Old Boy. But if I was being real and truthful, it'd probably be something like Back to the Future or Beauty and the Beast. Favorite video you have made? It probably is the Blur Oasis one. I really like that whole period of British pop music. People have said that I prefer both, when in my mind there's a definite band that I prefer, but somehow I've made it so that like I've confused people with that video, and that's why it's my favorite. Amy Atta writes, if you could go back in time and stay in that time period forever, which music era would you prefer to live through all your life? When I was editing the new video, I was watching old Green Day footage from like 92, late 80s. And I was like, I want to see Green Day before anyone knew who Green Day were. Everyone says, oh man, I'd love to live through the 70s and Bowie and stuff. Did I say it right that time? Everyone normally says like the 70s and listen to Zeppelin and Bowie. Most of the bands that I loved growing up that I never had a chance to see the first time round, like Jawbreaker and Green Day and Refused the first time, and like bands like that. Like, I'd love to have seen those live. Tony Whitburn asks, do you think rock will have a mainstream rebirth? There were a lot of questions about the current state of rock and what's coming next, and whether rock music will ever come back into the charts. And, you know, I don't think it matters that much. Like, if you like rock music, there's always going to be rock music there for you to listen to. New stuff, underground stuff. It's there if you want to look for it. A lot of the problem is that, you know, rock music is a lot more kind of invested in its own nostalgia. Most of the rock bands you can go see, like the big ones, are bands that are kind of, their best work was 10, 15 years ago. Like Fall Out Boy kind of broke up to reform because they knew they could get more money when they reformed. That is the problem with rock music at the moment. It's a bit too concerned with the past, whereas it should be looking at the future. At least mainstream rock music. But yeah, there's a lot of underground stuff that is still great, and you can check that out. Griffin Pitcher asks, what sound do you think will be the next dominant force in the charts? Because pop music as it is very kind of manufactured, as it always has been. But like, in the same way that everyone's predicting a new Smells Like Teen Spirit, a new punk rock, I'm not sure if it's going to happen. The nearest thing to that kind of explosion is stuff like bedroom pop, and these artists can basically make their own music and release it themselves, very DIY, and that can potentially accumulate over the next 10 years, and then we might be able to have some artists that kind of started that way and become a mainstream presence. But yeah, bedroom pop is probably the next thing that's going to go mainstream. J Mark asks a very simple question. Your top 10 pop punk albums. So if I'm talking about the whole spectrum of what could be considered pop punk, in no order: Hello Rockview by Less Than Jake, Let It Be by The Replacements, probably my favourite of these, Bleed American by Jimmy Eat World, Dude Ranch by Blink-182, Singles Going Steady by The Buzzcocks, The Dream Is Over by Pup, From Here to Infirmary by Alkaline Trio, From Under Cork Tree, Fall Out Boy, obviously, Dookie, because I'm basic, and one more, fucking DU by Jawbreaker. Greg Sense wants to know, what's my top 5 favourite albums of the 90s? So, and this is probably quite representative of who I am as a person, so totally read into this. Rid of Me by PJ Harvey, The Holy Bible by the Manic Street Preachers, Trouble Gum by Therapy, ? Clarity by Jimmy Eat World, which is just a stunning album. And what is my 5th? Just fucking Repeater by Fugazi, I guess. I think I had a 5th one and I've completely forgotten it. But yeah, Repeater by Fugazi. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this, but this person wants to know what my opinion on REM is. So REM were a great band that became an okay band, and that was about the time that people started listening to them outside of the underground. The basic, I liked them before they were cool kind of thing. Their early stuff, the 80s stuff, before they signed to Warner Brothers, is far superior to what they released after. Even though people really like Out of Time and Automatic for the People, fucking Fall On Me is better than anything on those 2 albums. Nabil asks, what's your favourite hardcore band and why? Depends what you consider hardcore punk, because like The Replacements and Husker Du started off as hardcore punk. All those bands are pretty great in their own way, but aren't really hardcore in the same way fucking Minor Threat and Black Flag are hardcore. It probably is The Replacements. The Replacements are fucking great. Even if it's just their first album. Their first album, in my mind, is probably better than anything Black Flag did. Maybe. Quincy Rich wants to know what the best concert I've been to is. Of late that I can remember, probably Grimes, who I saw a couple years ago. It was the last few dates of the Art Angels tour, and she was fucking great. I think it was the first non-rock act that I'd seen live, so it really kind of opened things up for me, because I was too used to guys in bands with guitars being boring on stage, and she had dancers, and that was a new visual aspect to a live show that I hadn't experienced before. Connor Topping has asked, what is your favourite Oasis song? Please don't say Wonderwall. Like Live Forever, I guess, is a very standard answer as well. And yeah, I can't say that. So yeah, let's go with Live Forever. Ranger has commented and asked, what is your favourite Smith song and why? Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others, because it combines the 2 parts of the Smiths that are great. One, Johnny Marr's guitar is just lovely. It's a beautiful song. And 2, this is the reason people hate this song, is because it's a joke song and Morrissey is a funny fucker. It's just the stupidest lyric combined with this beautiful guitar work, and that is why it's my favourite. It sums up the Smiths so very well. Favourite rapper? The obvious answer is someone like Kendrick Lamar, but I probably like Nicki Minaj better. Her verse on Monster is still one of the greatest rap verses that I've ever heard. Weed Kid Talks, one word, asked what my favourite band is. So of course I don't know who my favourite band is, no one does. But Spotify tells me that the band I've listened to the most over the last several years is Jimmy Eat World, so we'll go with that. Jimmy Eat World are perfect, from their early very emo stuff to their kind of more pop rock stuff that they did later. Like there's a good 10 years where they're pretty much untouchable for the kind of music they did. I should probably say something like iconic like Led Zeppelin or the Beatles, but no, it's Jimmy Eat World. Deep Sea Magic has written a paragraph. Since watching your video review of 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins and how it relates to the idealized nostalgia of lost youth, I have been wondering what your take is on the band's complete shift away from its signature sound in their newest album. Like, the Smashing Pumpkins have never had a consistent style. They've gone from the kind of dream poppy stuff that they started with, the kind of weird mix of Sabbath, Cheap Trick and Pixies that they started off with, and then a few years later they were releasing stuff like Tonight Tonight, which is completely different from what they were releasing 2-3 years earlier. And then you get to the late 90s where they were this weird Depeche Mode electro act. Like, Smashing Pumpkins are always going to change their style up. That's what they are. Does it mean that it's good? Probably not. The new album is not great. The last significant thing the Smashing Pumpkins have done was the 90s, because they are a 90s band. Paris Minto first asked how soon is now, but then followed it up with a real question. What are your thoughts on shoegaze, and what are your favourite shoegaze albums and bands? I'm so very basic, as you heard from my favourite band being Jimmy Eat World. I like Loveless. Loveless is great. I'm very concerned that it's no longer on Spotify. But yeah, I like certain tracks by other bands. Like, there's Listen, The Snow Is Falling by Galaxy 500. Like fucking Dreams Burn Down by Ride. That is great. Hypnos Somnos has asked, who is the worst artist or worst record you ever have heard? Who I really hate, and this is just a personal thing that has nothing to do with their potential artistic integrity or ability, but I hate the song We Be Burning by Sean Paul, just because for a good 3 months my sister would listen to it full blast the first thing in the morning on a Sunday, so I'd never get a lie in because of this song, and I hate it. I hate it still. So yeah, that was my Q&A. If I missed your question, if people still have questions, maybe I can do another one of these. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's demand. If you liked it, put a like in the comments. I'll see you in a week. I should have the Pop Punk Part 2 video out then.